Welcome to this episode of Wiki Walks, a short podcast devoted to some of the more intriguing and, who knew, articles that you can run across in the weird world of Wikipedia. I'm your host, Chris Grismer. Hello and welcome back to the show. Hope you're having a good one. With Memorial Day 2024 having been this past week, we're remembering one of the most heartbreaking casualties of World War II, the 5 Sullivan brothers who enlisted together in the U.S. Navy only to all perish in a brutal naval attack in the Pacific. Strap in because this is a tale of profound family sacrifice that still reverberates nearly 80 years later. It also serves as the inspiration for one of the finest war movies ever made. I bet you can guess which one. Our story begins in Waterloo, Iowa, with the Sullivan clan. Thomas and Aletta Sullivan and their 5 strapping boys, George, Frank, Joe, Matt, and Al. In the wake of the Pearl Harbor attacks, this tight-knit Irish-American family was united in wanting to serve their country. The 5 brothers struck a deal to enlist together in January of '42, with the Navy bending its usual policy of separating siblings. Just 10 months later, the Sullivan boys found themselves aboard the light cruiser USS Juneau, deployed in support of the Guadalcanal campaign. In the early hours of November 13, 1942, the Juneau was struck by a Japanese torpedo, forcing it to withdraw. But later that day, an enemy submarine landed a fateful second hit that caused the cruiser to explode and rapidly sink to the depths. Of the nearly 700, only 10 sailors survived the initial sinking and ensuing days adrift before being rescued. The full and grisly truth didn't reach the parents back in Waterloo until over 2 months later. On a January morning in 1943, a naval officer arrived at the Sullivan home to deliver the unimaginable news. All 5 brothers were dead, either killed in the blast or succumbing to injuries, exposure, and shark attacks in the open ocean. The devastation of the Sullivan family instantly became a national tragedy. Letters of condolence poured in from the highest levels, including President Roosevelt and the Pope. Their hometown christened a memorial park in their honor that endures to this day. But the brothers' greatest legacy lived on in a pioneering military policy called the Sole Survivor Policy, wherein there is a peacetime exemption from assignment to a combat zone to anyone whose parent or sibling was killed in action, died in the line of duty, or dies later as a result of disease or injury incurred in the line of duty while serving in the armed forces. In a poignant twist of fate, the wreckage of the USS Juneau itself was only discovered in 2018 by explorers funded by the late Paul Allen of Microsoft. Over 4,000 feet below the surface near the Solomon Islands, the final resting place of the Sullivan brothers and so many of their crewmates was revealed through an underwater drone's cameras after 76 years. It was a somber reminder that the sacrifices of World War II, as symbolized by this one all-American family's unimaginable loss, must never be forgotten. For whenever you hear the Sullivan brothers uttered in reverence, let it serve as a powerful tribute to not just their individual courage, but the bonds of family love that refuse to be broken, even in the inhumanity of war itself. War is always a tragedy, but few stories cut as deeply as that of the 5 Sullivans, who stuck together until the very end on that fateful day in the Pacific in 1942. Their names have been forever enshrined as the truest band of brothers in military history.